Thank you very much, Teal. So it's wonderful to be spending the week here at City Science Lab Hamburg. I've had a great week. I hope you have too as well. I also want to thank the organizers of this event for so cleverly arranging the speakers. And I want to thank the previous keynote lecturer, Professor Akwate. She really laid the ground for my presentation today, explaining from a complexity perspective the potentials, the added value of our models, but also a very sobering look at the limitations so that we can really understand where they add value and also where we need to look beyond our models. And that's the point of my presentation today and the question that we pose here, why build a city model? And the claim that I want to make here today is that it's not about the city model so much as the building of the city model. If we want to reorient our perspective towards engaging in people-centered processes, which are urban digital twins, used to be called planning support systems, emphasis on the support side. If we want to look at how to embed these technologies, we need to be thinking beyond the technologies with more of a process perspective and a people-centered focus. So my name is Carissa Champlin. My title as assistant professor may not say very much to you, maybe a lot of jargon, but essentially what I do is I'm looking to expand our means of exploring the future and expanding our methods so that we can engage different people and different ideas and ways of knowing and exploring those futures together. So I'm not doing this alone. I'd like to recognize also my co-authors who are joining us online today. Dr. Pirus Nurian, who is a generative data scientist and assistant professor of digital twinning in my department at the University of Twente, together with Dr. Fran Meissner, who's a critical geodata studies and geodata ethics researcher. So together, as you can see here, we're looking at advancing our digital planning technologies by first thinking critically about their role in society, and then using that as a springboard to engage in design, to rethink the future of our technologies for the future of our societies. Can you read that? This was not so gray on my slides. The claim that we want to make today in this presentation is that our current approaches risk taking us further away from truly people-centered processes. So when we look at our technologies, what are they really doing in terms of our collective goals of moving towards more sustainable, just, and inclusive and livable cities? So to answer the question of why build a city model, I first want to go through the why, the what, and the how. So I want to introduce you and to reflect with you on the persistent problems that we've been experiencing with city models for the past 60, 70 years now. Then I want to apply those persistent problems in 2 case studies of digital twin adoption in the Netherlands, which is where my university and where is located and where I'm based. And then I want to introduce you to 3 design approaches that can help us as a means of moving past some of these dilemmas and towards a more digitally informed people-centric planning processes. So just by a raise of hand, I'm really curious to know who here in the audience has read Douglas Lee's Requiem for Large-Scale Models. Fantastic. I'm so happy to be introducing this important literature to you as my predecessors, Marco de Brumerstroot and Stan Kertman did for me when I was a PhD candidate. I was at University of Twente, not at University of Amsterdam or Utrecht, but we were all talking with one another. And I really appreciated reading this early on in my research on planning support systems. Douglas Lee, in 1974, wrote a really, really scathing reflection on computational models for city planning reflecting on the last 20 years. So it was 1974. This has been revisited by my predecessors, mostly based in the Netherlands in 1990. Douglas Lee reflected on his own critique in 1994. And then 20 years later, the Dutchies, my predecessors, reflected again. And every time they go back, we've been encountering a lot of the same problems. We've been making progress with our digital technologies, but certainly on the social side, we still continue to hit the same roadblocks. So for the past year, now we've reached 50 years of Douglas Lee's critical reflection. And I've been doing my own reflection to celebrate 50 years, looking back with colleagues working on city planning and futures and digital technologies on where are we now. And I'll be touching on some of these different critiques, the 7 deadly sins. But I want to right now focus in on the mechanicalness that Douglas Lee mentions. So what we see here is that as we work so hard to tinker with the technology, we lose sight of critical reflection on the reasoning, the rationality, the bigger picture, and it limits our creativity in thinking about these complex societal challenges. So that was the past, looking at where we are with our large-scale models. But I've also been working with industrial design students, particularly when I was working as an assistant professor at TUDelft in industrial design, on thinking about moving forward and the future of our technologies and making them more participatory. And I forgot some really critical recognition in this collaboration, so I'm going to add it now. And if we can also do that for the online audience. So there you go. This was a wonderful collaboration between TU Delft when I was working there and City Science Lab here in Hamburg. It was an arts meets science festival called City Climates Meets Creative Coding, where scientists, designers, we all were hacking these digital planning technologies to think about, to explore the future of these technologies. Here you can see my design students and the exhibition that we created called Participate, where we were looking at the role of embedded AI in our digital planning tools to make them more inclusive and participatory. So here you can see Under the Loop and Bruno the Bench, which were very speculative designs for digital planning technologies for participation. Bruno was literally an embedded AI bench that you could have a conversation with about your neighborhood. Kate, well, so these were really exploratory, speculative designs for collecting data from citizens. Kate was a robot, an AI-embedded robot, sitting at these high-stakes decision-making tables and representing the entire communities, and lighting up and then speaking up based on interviews that she had conducted with Under the Loop, with Bruno the Bench and Under the Loop. So while these were completely speculative, not real, why were they important? Well, we embedded these technologies in future worlds, right? And by doing that, it allowed us to critically reflect on what could be the added value of these future technologies, but also what would be some of the risks and the things that we need to look out for. And the reason I show this is because I think that right now, with rapid advancements in urban digital twins, rapid advancements in AI applications, that we need to stop, pause for a minute, and think about what these technologies, how they're going to potentially be impacting our future worlds. Yeah, really showing up very light, isn't it? But that's okay, because what I want to focus on now is embedding some of this critical reflection in looking at where we are with our current digital planning technologies in the case of the Netherlands. So we are very anxiously awaiting the final decision on a very large grant proposal that we submitted that we call Contestable Urban Transitions. We're in the finalist stage, so we're very hopeful that we can do this research together for the next 6 years. And we're focused on the twin transition. So this means not only looking at the future of technologies in our smart cities, but also for a purpose, right? It's not just technology for the sake of technology, but for transitioning to green and sustainable urban futures. Here are two examples before I show that. Let me just go back and say the two cases are two Dutch cities. The city of Rotterdam, which is one of the largest cities in the Netherlands, still under 1 million, but with a large municipal capacity to really advance e-governance and pick up these technologies quickly. The second case study is from the city of Enschede, where my university is located. It's a mid-sized Dutch city that's just now really starting to accelerate on its digital agenda. And I'm going to give you the case of, in both of these cities, of dealing with heat stress. So here you can see the recently launched open urban platform Rotterdam, which was launched in January 2025. What you're looking at is one of its urban digital twins for mapping heat stress. I'll just let that play out for a second. Very similar to what we've seen of the CUT project. This is open urban platform Rotterdam is designed as an ecosystem. It's meant to not only be a host for multi-twins, but it's also meant to be a marketplace where the city is not only using open data sets to communicate to the city, but also for the city and residents to communicate back to the city as well. So there's very much this ambition that the digital twin enables residents, business owners to engage in self-driven data-informed initiatives and to communicate in that digital space. The city of Enschede is not as far in the adoption of a digital twin, but they do have that on their digital city horizon, digitization horizon. But what you can see is that they have multiple agendas running in parallel. So they have their living environments where they're looking at transitions of the urban environment, but they also very much want to do their planning in a participatory way, which is a separate agenda, which is an important point to make. At the same time, there's some early experimentation happening with colleagues of mine at ITC to develop digital twins for more data-informed approach for their planning of the city. So what can we learn from these two examples? Well, the current state is that our digital transitions in cities are very much focused on urban digital twinning and favoring multi-purpose models. We lack clearly defined purposes for these models, and when we do define them, we often leave out citizen perspectives and non-human perspectives in defining the frameworks of those models. As a result, focusing on the technology and the technology development is moving us increasingly further from people-centered processes. So of course, this is one of the challenges that is at the center of Work Package 4 that I'm leading from this project, which is focused on digital planning technologies. Really core to this project and this idea is the idea of contestation. If we really look and self-reflect, I think that we all can agree that consensus might be a noble objective, but in reality, it is impossible to achieve. So what we're looking at is constructive ways of disagreeing, of surfacing dilemmas through contestation, but not a radical, offensive, non-constructive contestation. We're looking for ways of surfacing dilemmas, reframing the way we engage with the future based on these dilemmas in order to move forward together. And if we look back at reflecting on what literature is telling us about where we are at this moment, what we can say about urban digital twins is that the hyper-realistic representations of that urban digital twins provide of our physical structures are often void of the social dynamics that make cities cities. And this is not just recent literature Lefebvre has been making this argument for many decades now that cities are nothing more than spaces if they lack the social dynamics that make places real for people. Not only that, but when we look at the urban processes that urban digital twins are very good and our models are very good at representing, the increased automation and the autonomous advancements that we're making with AI make these models extremely hard for us to contest. So now I get to make the very clear link back to the keynote and to the work of Costa. I encourage you not only to read Douglas Lee's 1974 work, but also follow Michael Batty, who just does an excellent job of measuring the pulse of advancements in our field. And just last year, he wrote about digital twins, and he said, as soon as we begin to simulate our systems without thinking about human behaviors in those systems, then are able to predict, the predictive capacity of these models become extremely flawed or questionable, right? So I just want to put this into, make this more tangible. When we think about our different planning tasks, this is not meant to be a comprehensive table whatsoever. This is just meant to be indicative of generally 3 different types of planning tasks that we engage in: routine, more managerial tasks, disaster response, how do we deal with crises, and strategic, more long-range, future-oriented. And here we can see urban digital twins help us to forecast, simulate flows, and also map hazards. But and when it comes to long-range futures, to visualize and materialize future plans. But what we may miss from a people perspective is the values that drive behavior, the social capital that makes each different context very unique from the other. So when we generalize through our models, how can we actually make them meaningful in context? And if we want to invest in long-range futures and put billions of euros into redesigning our cities, what point is it if it's not a place that people find, use, or value? So I have 3 minutes to go through the last, but I think really important part, and that is the how. How can we move forward in a more people-centric way? And I want to show you 3 different research through design perspectives. Please just trust me that there's a lot of complexity theory and process theory here behind what I'm going to show you. But really what the message that I want to convey is that the planning process and the model building process, they need something from one another constantly. And if we engage through research, through design methodology, we can help to facilitate that cycle. So here are 3 examples. If we look at probing the future, we're looking at really understanding people's values, people's desires in a very experimental kind of exploratory future sort of way, so that we can help deal with the wrong-headedness of our models. What's missing from our models? What is the world, the desirable future state of a world that people want to live in, that we can then provide more deeper evidence-based insights for that futuring perspective. Second, this should read prototyping, not probing. Second is prototyping. So how can we move outside of the digital world so that we can enable people to engage with our models and engage on the information level and not so much the interface or the technology level, so that we can get to the really core of what's important to people. Not only, if you scan here, you can find this methodology in our Environmental and Planning B publication, but you can also see how we're trying to teach our geoinformation students to create games as a way of testing and validating their model by creating narratives around these models, trying to really bring the models a little bit closer to the real world. And finally, countermapping. So this is not only about how can we communicate the outputs of our models in a way that's more tangible, understandable to a broader audience, but also how can we also make sense of this knowledge together in a more accessible way? really annoyed with how gray this is. I can barely read it myself. So yeah, to conclude this, I wanted to say that moving forward together, yeah, I can't read it either. I see the reaction in the audience. Basically, what I want to say here is that if we engage in the designing and this process of design, this can help us constantly engage in a conversation between modeling experts and society so that we can contest and understand each other's knowledge and integrate that knowledge together in a more constructive way. And really important about a process people-centered approach is that through these different design methodologies, we can find ways of engaging people in the sense making around the data that our models produce, and also setting the frameworks for these models to make them more relevant for society towards these bigger aims of more sustainable, desirable, livable cities. Here are just a couple of examples of the things that we need to put on the agenda to think about in order to make these approaches, this process-centered approach, more feasible. And that is emphasizing process over technologies, creating spaces and new ways of engaging with different types of data, nurturing data collectives as a way of empowering people to engage in this digital environment, and also, of course, with that, increasing their literacy in data-centric approaches. The last thing I want to say is who we are. So we are actually historically an arm of the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, historically working on capacity development for mapping the world. But today we're we're a university faculty at an entrepreneurial technical university, one of the 4 in the Netherlands. And we take a very people-centered approach to our research. We work together collaborating with the Digital Twin Geo Hub, which is part of our department. We have our own mini city science lab, and we also have a lot of very experimental generative projects that we work on, generative design. My mission here is to collaborate, to enrich the very nice collaboration that we have with City Science Lab, and also to let you know that we are very nicely located in Enschede, perfect for collaboration, just 3.5 hours away, and very oriented as a border city towards Germany. Lots of us speak German. And also to let you know that in the coming months, we will have hopefully more than one, but definitely one PhD position opening up. So if you're very interested in this topic, come find me. If you're interested in learning more about how we are working with City Science Lab to explore the future of our cities and the future of our technologies, come see us at Coupon in London this summer. And thank you very much for your attention.